Of the executive personnel to have worked closely with Patrick on the original 13 episodes, George Markstein had departed after a disagreement regarding the direction in which he felt the series should follow. And Bernard Williams, who at the age of 24 had been the youngest production manager in the UK, had decided to further his film career elsewhere, leaving Patrick McGoohan and David Tomlin jointly in charge of the production office. The new series had to get off on the right foot. So in an attempt to keep a consistency with what had been produced so far, Vincent Tilsley, writer of the popular Chimes of Big Ben, was approached to script what was to become the first story of the second batch of episodes.
They were very pleased with the first one. They thought I'd got P just right. And I think that I was asked almost immediately, will you write another one? I said yes, obviously. They didn't give me an idea. Again, it was up to me to think of an idea. And my recollection is, and it's pretty hazy, but I seem to recall that what I was initially thinking about was a travelling circus and the disappearing act, where somebody goes into a box, you know, and then the magician does whatever he does and they've disappeared. And I thought, wouldn't it be good if there was a travelling circus in town and number 6 got into the box and disappeared? I mean, I thought no further than that. I didn't know what would happen from then on. I just thought, what a good dramatic moment. And that really is enough, or very often it's enough, to take in with you, that initial idea. Because if they like that, then you can start working out a story. Otherwise you're wasting your time. If they don't like that idea, basically, don't worry with a plot. So I don't think I took it any further than that I can remember. And I went in to give them that idea.
But before he could submit the idea, his storyline had to be changed, as circumstances had taken an unusual twist. 2 years previously, in 1965, an American company called Filmways, on behalf of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, had gone into pre-production on a film version of Alistair MacLean's Cold War novel Ice Station Zebra. Cast in the leading roles were Gregory Peck, George Segal, and David Niven. But after various delays and a change of director, the film was totally recast, with the David Niven part offered to Patrick McGoohan. This was one role he decided could not be refused, although Patrick had resisted the call of Hollywood for several years. The problem now was how to continue with The Prisoner without Patrick McGoohan playing the starring role.
Which of course was sort of ridiculous, because the very first thing I've been told of is he's the star, you know, everything's got to revolve around him. And could I possibly think of a story in which McGoohan didn't appear? It didn't occur to me, so far as I know, to have a travelling circus and have McGoohan disappear in the first minute or something. And thinking about that now, that would have been a hell of an expensive way of getting him to disappear. And I can't remember now how I thought up this plot of mind swapping. They called it Do Not Forsake. What was the original title that I gave it? Face Unknown, wasn't it? Yeah. Do you know, I honestly can't remember how I thought that one up. It was more an act of ingenuity than anything else. It was more me being an escapologist, me being a professional scriptwriter who will fix something so that they will say, well, that was clever, well done, rather than thinking up some brilliant idea that says something about life. This was just in order to get an episode of The Prisoner done without Patrick McGoohan in it. They might just as well have shot it the way I wrote it, frankly, for all the good it was. And that's a pity, because I think, I don't like to be critical at this length of, with such hindsight, but I don't know, honestly, why they didn't get on to me in the first place and say, look, this isn't very good. Because I could have told them that. Let's sit around and turn it into something good. I mean, that's the way to do things. And I think had they done that, we'd have come up with a better show than the one that you've seen.
When a script for a film or television series is revised, a standard technique is employed so that the unit can keep themselves up to date. Instead of reprinting the entire document, just the revised pages are distributed to the crew, accompanied by a memo listing the revisions. To avoid confusion with the existing sections of script, these loose pages are either printed on a different colored paper or with a different ink. The scene numbers never change. This would be fatal, since many studio departments work solely by these notations, most notably the continuity lady. If a sequence is removed, its number becomes redundant. If a sequence is added, it is given the previous scene's number with a letter suffix until the next unchanged scene is encountered. Here is a particularly good example. Although scene 97 has been deleted, the additional scene replacing it is called scene 96A. This establishes a new scene number, avoiding confusion with the deleted scene. To avoid any further confusion, subsequent revisions would be printed on a different color of paper to contrast with the previous amendments. A script, if kept constantly up to date, can by the end of a production look akin to a paper rainbow. The rewriting of Face Unknown, however, was so substantial that the entire original script was thrown out and replaced, without reference to its predecessor. Although the two drafts tell integrally the same story, Number 6's mind is put into the body of the Colonel so that the only way of reuniting himself is to find the elusive Professor Saltzman on behalf of the village authorities. They are very different in their respective approaches. The first half-dozen scenes of the episode remain generally unchanged. In fact, several lines of dialogue were carried forward into the rewrite, although they did not make it as far as the finished episode. The revised script suggests that Number 6's memory of the village is wiped prior to him being placed back in the real world. The original script took this idea one stage further by winding his mind back to the night before his resignation, when he is seen writing the letter and putting it on the mantelpiece ready for the morning. Furthermore, it is not until he mistakenly resigns a second time that he catches a glimpse of himself in a nearby mirror and realizes his now different appearance. This would not only have been very hard to make convincing, but very difficult to shoot. Behind the mirror is a darkened room from where Sir Charles Portland observes Number 6's subsequent interrogation. With him is an unseen man who may or may not be Number 2. This original draft paints Sir Charles as a much harder character who is clearly in some way involved with the village's scheme. He never meets Number 6 nor his distressed daughter face to face at any point in the story. Eventually, Number 6 is reunited with his fiancée, who naturally does not recognize him. Removed from this scene was an amusing in-joke. Number 6 tells Janet that his name is Robert Edward Turner, or R.E. Turner for short.